that, let me know now.
A motion to approve.
Second.
All right, the minutes are approved. Are there any agenda changes?
Yes. Okay, something for new business. Something we discussed with the state park directors a while back. I'd like to put on state park capital improvement projects because he asked that we put together a list of projects to him before we finish, so we could get it into next year's budget. So I know we talked about one or two projects, and I'd like to officially put that on the agenda so we can talk about it and move forward with that recommendation.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, why don't we, do people feel good about saving that for new business to discuss and talk about it a little further?
And under new business.
Does that work for everyone?
Sure.
Okay. Any other agenda changes or additions? Hearing none, we'll jump down to public comment. Any public present there in the room? Nope. No. Okay, let's move on to the presentations. Hans, you want to jump in here?
Sounds good. So just kind of putting the agenda together. I suggested Dave and Shannon spend a few minutes chatting about the special use permits tonight, state parks, the matrix by which state parks permits, maybe review for some, maybe not for others. But I got a little PowerPoint here if I can get it to work. There it is. So just go. This all is laid out by the Kenai Comprehensive Management Plan, which you get a good idea of our organizational skill set by the way this plan is tailored for me. Obviously, if you've got questions as we go through here, feel free to ask. But as far as special use permits, state parks issues two kinds of permits. One is commercial use permits. One is special use permits. Special use permits would be for activities like structures on or adjacent within state parks lands, meaning elevated walkways that overhang the bank, bank revetment you do. If you want to have a wedding with more than 20 people in the state park unit on the Kenai Peninsula within Charisma. So there are different inroads, if you will, for special use permits. Most of what I'll just chat about tonight here will have to do with work that's done close to the river. So there's 4 agencies that permit work that is done below ordinary high water mark or adjacent to it. And those 4 agencies are Alaska Department of Fish and Game, Kenai Peninsula Borough, Alaska State Parks, and the Army Corps of Engineers. Kenai Peninsula Borough has authority kind of for 2 prongs. One which we've heard Samantha Lopez, the River Center Director, speak before, is for floodway. Another is for habitat within 50 feet of an hazardous water body. So those are the 4 permitting agencies. Those agencies get together weekly this time of year to talk about permits, state parks processes. Around 60 or more or less of your special use permits. So probably half of those are something stairs into the river, walkways, habitat works. So permitting procedures, this is established here. If you can look online, just for folks online, we're looking at the Kenai River Comprehensive Management Plan. And this is Appendix C of the plan. Lays out basically your the matrix and guidelines. So if you're interested in this, I've got a copy of it here. I can get anybody a hard copy that wants, but with the writing of this plan is a quite in-depth matrix talking about different sections of the river, by river mile, different, and then different activities that are or are not compatible, and different activities that need to be permitted by different agencies within those zones. So this is the interagency go by, which we can use to help as we adjudicate permits. The agencies that were previously mentioned in the slide before, we work to coordinate so that someone's not issuing a conflicting permit, or if one agency won't issue a permit, make that known to other agencies. So agencies aren't issuing permits in a conflicting manner. And then, as discussed before, there's interagency meetings that occur on a weekly basis during kind of the high-tech permitting season, and that would be kind of end of February through early May. The plan throughout the matrix in Appendix C provides guidelines for the agencies to follow, for state parks to follow when they're issuing those permits. It also provides guidelines, you spend time on the river, you see some uniformity between walkways and docks and elevated platforms, and that's partly due to it's due to standards either by the borough or by state parks and what you can or cannot river based on size and your lot size. So those standards are in this plan, and it's what's used to reference it in. Permits are issued. One more slide here. And this is for specifically talking about in-stream structures. And so, as you know, from being on the river, spending time there, there's a lot of nuances with the river. So in-stream structures are considered on an individual basis. There's kind of four categories for in-stream structures that are laid out in the plan. This is an Appendix D for reference. It's new structures and major reconstruction. And that would be these structures must comply with all current and habitat design and construction standards. There's routine maintenance and minor reconstruction of existing structures. Permitting agencies will process permits for minor maintenance of existing structures. Reconstruction of existing structures. Reconstruction of existing structures with the professional judgment of permitting agencies and fish habitat and fish passage criteria. And then financial incentives. And that's permitting agencies should continue to provide financial incentives to encourage landowners to incorporate habitat protection improvements and fish passage to existing structures or remove the structures where appropriate. So Appendix C and D in the comprehensive management plan, if you're curious on how we at state parks kind of go down the if you watch The Price is Right, like Plinko, where the ship goes in there and it goes down and where it ends up. And what does it, what does it mean in the landscape for us? And that's, financial incentives were talked about. We've got Fish and Game has a cost share program. It's Fish and Game and Fish and Wildlife Service. So this year they'll have 10 projects that are going to the cost share program that agencies will permit. And that's the habitat work that's done on the river, which is exciting. We can work to, if that program hasn't been presented to the board, we can work to do that in future meetings or future years. But it's a great program, and we're always looking for viable applicants for that program. Another, significant kind of interesting permitting is Sedona wastewater treatment plant. They did reconstruction of the wastewater outfall last spring. There's been some issues with functionality of that wastewater outfall. This is right below the Kenai River Bridge. See the water again there, about 96 feet out from the bank of the Kenai, working on the outfall. Another one, which state parks isn't permitting, but interesting special use permit is Instar is putting another pipeline into what's pipeline crossing by Poacher's Cove. So that's not a permit that state parks would issue, but Fish and Game will be issuing, Habitat Division will be issuing a permit for that. Going into the river. And then we've had some other significant, larger scale kind of private habitat work that's planned or will be done for this field season. So just an idea to paint the picture, special use permits. We've got discussion about commercial use and special use. So if you have certain questions, you can know where to look or know where to ask. There.
And David and Shannon can chime in. The kind of permits that we would, or I feel like I would be interested in hearing about are habitat improvement permits that substantially change the landscape. So I'll give you an example. Soldotna Creek Park used to carry probably 80 to 100 anglers able to fish from the bank. They came through, did a huge stabilization project. But they made it so abrupt that now, unless you're a big, strong guy like me, you can't get in there in a lot of water conditions. So it holds a dozen now. And so there are some times where the users, it may meet all and check all your boxes, but it might conflict with what some users would, or we might have some input on how it could be more advantageous for users, or whether or not that should be close to use or whatever. But those are the types of issues where I would like to see those kind of applications, see a mechanism that those would get posted to us. And I understand that we only meet until May and sometimes they happen outside of that, but if we could set up a system that those applications say, hey, this one, we're planting trees that are going to grow up in a place where, it was easy to flip, that would substantially change that. So that would be my request.
Are you talking about upriver or downriver?
Fall River. Oh, no, the Soldotna Creek Park, it used to be very, it used to be very similar to what Centennial looks like. But then they dug it out. It was having some erosion problems. They dug it out, put all those trees in there and buried them back in. So there's a tree wall. And, well, it's not the same. It's working to keep the river where it is from that aspect, but it's not working for users the way it used to work. So I wouldn't say that it's not working. I'm just saying that it's a shift in use patterns that this body could help, inform those decisions.
I appreciate that, Monty. Shannon and I have had some email correspondence about this. I think we can work to, I understand the intent, and I think we can work on tempo, right? Because they all kind of have time, right? And we have, by regulation, we have 30 days to turn them around. But I think regardless of that, right, we can work on tempo where we're communicating, maybe it's not at every meeting, but maybe it's in between. We can have a socialization of projects that are, we can meet the mark, so to speak, and for where it's a great point.
I would assume these projects are from a funding source, like that project was years in advance. So there should have been plenty of opportunities, even prior to getting to the permitting process, right?
Yeah, you think about, I'm sure, federal funding for that anyway.
It is just an example. I'm not saying that, but Shannon's got her input.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Hi, through the chair. So, Hans, what I would like to add to this discussion is anytime that the public's access has changed, I think that might be good to run through the advisory committee for input.
Of course.
And I'm not very sure about my internet quality right now, so I hope that I'm coming through clearly. Thank
I have
you.
a question, I'm sorry. I had a question that's generally related. One time, the tourism board participated in reviewing plats and things that were on the river, that basically the river part of it. It kind of fell through the cracks. We used to do that regularly at every meeting, with 5 plats here and offer opinions about whether they ought to be approved or not. And very often we found out they shouldn't be approved because they had a negative effect on public use, closed off public use, or actually caused a serious problem in terms of potential habitat damage, not necessarily based on the way the paper was written, but those of us that were practical know what the positive effect is. Putting a whole bunch of people in a sort of concentrated area needed to have comments. What's the status of that?
Plats that, I mean, I get, our agency gets plats to review or comment on. That's where, and where they would abut the river or they got the most important. Sure. It's pretty, maybe a couple a year. It's not very frequent. I don't know if that's because
I guess it used to be far,
it's settled, you know.
it used to be a lot more.
Yeah, I don't know.
We review, we used to review 4 or 5 every meeting.
Yeah.
And some of them were pretty atrocious. We were able to stop and have an influence.
Yeah.
By filing a complaint about, hey, you can't put that many people on. You have a subdivision that had 35 lots on them and 15 feet of river space. You knew what was gonna happen. They're gonna be intruding on other people's property.
Yeah, and just for clarification, Ted, I can take a note and sort of do that. And that, it seems to me most of the plats I get now are like, lot size change or not subdivision scale, but I can put that on the list.
Yeah, I think, Ken, maybe one of the things that happened is that the river's pretty much owned up now.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. That's just like, make another little lot. All right, Dave, I can wrap it up here and take over my agency report, or where do you want to go here?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the presentation. If there's no more questions on that, why don't you just continue into your agency report?
Okay, sounds great. Just on the heels of our previous discussion, I brought with tonight. Got this is 35% design for our Big Eddy facility improvements. So just got these on Tuesday from our engineering group. So the idea is a remodel, revamping of Big Eddy site. So I'll leave these here and I can send them out to the group here as well. Or we can work with Dave and Shannon and get the most appropriate channel to get those to the board here to review. Take a peek at. In addition to that, we opened a few units here with Spring coming briefly. Got Pickles open, as Walton open, Morgan's Landing open, Bing's Landing's open. Cooper Landings, all the landings. We're open and getting used, which is the whole point. So camping and boat use. We've got Taylor's completed host hiring for the year. We got, I don't know, 10 hosts hired for Kenai Special Management Area, which is not a small feat. So we've got about 16 or 17 hosts. We shoot for region-wide, 10 which are here on the Kenai River. They're volunteer hosts that who want to work for us, that are not fun work for us. And, we need them to make our job happen. So we're grateful for their volunteering. We've got briefed the board here a few times with the recreational trail program grant we applied for this fall for ATVs and snow machines for use for some of that would be for winter trail maintenance for places like Morgan's Landing, Things Landing. And I just heard this last week those were approved by the Federal Highway Commission, so we'll get funding for those. So hopefully this winter, not hopefully this winter, we'll be doing some trails and campgrounds at Morgan's Landing and Things Landing, which would be, well enjoyed by individuals that live around those places and the public in general. So, kind of in other interesting news, found gold prices. Gold prices have increased pretty dramatically in the past month or so. It's hovered above and below $3,000 an ounce. So that's driven some interest recently in the last few weeks with our lands division about gold mining. And so there's been some chatter about most of you know, for legislatively designated land, the Kenai River Special Management Area, that's regulations on what can be done as far as recreational gold mining. There are lands, like specifically Kenai Lake Cooper Landing area, where those lands, additional lands, are managed by state parks by agreement and are not part of the legislatively designated unit of Kenai River Special Management Area. So those would be definitely differently from recreational gold holding. Just interesting developments. No, nothing beyond interest at this point. I'll certainly be appraised of what, if anything, develops from that. And that's all.
So you said all parks are open, but Eagle Rock's not open yet, right?
Yeah, just the ones. Yeah, Pillars, just the ones listed there, Monty. Yeah, Eagle Rock.
Okay.
What about the rest of the peninsula parks?
Same way down south. We've opened, not all of the Milkchick is open, but most of them. See what Riverboat Launch is open. So still skiing on outline on the Eastern Road. Eastern Road. So, where you want to go? What park do you want to go to?
And then how's the flood repair at Anchor Point going?
Great question. I was just down there yesterday, Monty. There's more snow there than here, probably 9 or 10 inches of snow in Anchor Point yesterday. We got a plan. We'll get it accessible by the spring. So a lot of gravel on the down there. Interested in studying hydrology, a lot of ground movement. That will be able to get it back in place, certainly to try access there. So one more input. Sorry, Monty, I think it's not in present, but it's close. We have a concessionaire that runs both the Anchor River access for us and the Halibut Campground, which is right next to Anchor River, and Captain Cook Park for us. That concessionaire contract sunset this winter. We rebid the contract and got the same bidder back in. Management, which is the entity in Alaska, I think. So we're not working on that. It's good for another 5 years. I'm really done. I can keep running through the list for you, Dave, if that makes it easier for you, or either way.
Yeah, I think that'd be a little easier if you're wrapped up and there's no more questions for state parks or Hans. Then yeah, we can keep on chipping down the list to the DEC. And Hans, if you wouldn't mind just kind of calling out the agency folks for the rest of the way down the list, that'd be great.
Evening, Mary with DC. Anything to add, Mary?
Hey, yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear.
Okay, awesome. So, we've been pretty busy getting a lot of our projects planned out and getting ready for the summer. We've got a handful of projects that are going to be down on the Kenai Peninsula. So I thought I'd just kind of run through those really quick to give you guys a heads up of some of the water quality work that's going to be going on. So down in Homer, they're going to be doing the Marine Beach Pathogen Monitoring Program. So this is a program that was similar. It happened on the Kenai Beach a few years ago. They'll be doing it in Homer. So the Homer Soil and Water Conservation District is going to be collecting nearshore marine water quality samples at 3 different locations, 2 of which will be in Homer, one of them will be in Anchor Point. And they're going to be analyzing the samples for fecal coliform and enterococci bacteria. So we're looking for any kind of like exceedances in those levels. And we'll be posting results pretty quickly to keep the public updated to make sure the water is clean and healthy for them to recreate in, and keeping an eye out on any high levels of bacteria there. And that's going to be a 2-year project. So it'll start this summer, and then the sampling will extend into 2026 as well. And then we're also funding a project with the Ketchimak Heritage Land Trust as part of their Salmon Sweet campaign. So you've probably seen their signs around. They're the ones that post the baby salmon live here too signs. They're going to be continuing some of their outreach through their established education programs. So they're going to utilize some field trips, sign installation events, and other things to highlight the significance of land adjacent to anadromous streams and kind of help educate the public on the critical role of healthy watersheds, and how important they are to protecting salmon habitat. And then let's see, the last project that we'll have going on this summer is actually going to be with the water quality monitoring and assessment section at DEC. So they're going to be funded by the National Coastal Condition Assessment Program. They're going to be sampling 50 sites all the way from Ketchimak Bay around the outside of the Kenai Peninsula to Chenega Bay, and starting in mid-July and then ending sometime in August. So they'll be collecting a whole bunch of samples. They're kind of on a probability-based design, but there's going to be 10 sites that are targeted in areas that have higher cruise ship activity. And at each location, they're collecting water quality, sediment, and fish tissue samples. So it's going to be a busy summer. And that's all I have for my update.
All right. Thanks, Mary. Any questions for Mary? Monty.
So Mary, in the past, we've got reports on what upcoming projects will come in for the Kenai and monitoring. Do you have any on the scope for this summer?
They didn't post like a public notice of them yet. Things have been moving along really slowly in DEC just because we've had a change in commissioner. So that kind of holds up the whole chain of public notice for us. But if you do want more information, I can send out an email kind of with a little description of things that are going to be going on.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Anything else? I don't see anything here. Did I don't see Phil Stacy on. Is there a fishing game, Brett, on?
Can I make a recommendation to Dave that we reach out to Phil? He's somewhat new in his position and he's in the office and working, but he might just be missing the notifications of this meeting.
Yep. Yeah, I got you. I'll try to get a hold of Phil. It looks like he hasn't been here since maybe January, it looks like. So yeah, I'll try to get a hold of him. If anyone has a different email address than what I've been including on the email chains, or a good phone number, pass it along. I'll try to get a hold of him.
I can work with you on that too, Dave. No problem. Thanks, Monty, for that.
Okay.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Yeah,
So we're just down looking at the new boardwalk putting in at the River, on the other side. It's the national staircases. The boardwalk that captures those now is going along nicely, about halfway done. Now we're trying to get all the help to go down there and start dropping the copious amount of dead trees. The last thing you want to have on brand new boardwalk is a bunch of dead trees. So I put those fast, get those out of the way. Bucked up. Get some signage put up out there too. Got a mirror with a Forest Service tip on their side, especially some of the cultural resource information. Print out. Really nice out there. We did have a funding pool with several of our federal contracts, and some of it has come back. Valley Garden Campground Beaumont was supposed to be prepared to be done. That was through the GOA funding. That was all pulled not too long ago. However, since most of the preliminary work and engineering drafting had been done, the region was able to say we can use the deferred maintenance money to make that project happen. So that's a huge win. That campground as well as the boat launch. You know, it's a major access point to one of our most popular these cabins. That boat launch is really steep and can be, you know, a little dangerous when it's wet. So that will be getting done. Late May, early June, we'll put out the notice and close that site down for a little bit until we get it open and finished. And as far as, you know, I had a permit specialist coming. I had a few other positions. Those positions were all rescinded. Our current administration, so those folks go. And we had a pause in all of our seasonal hiring too. The pause in the seasonal hiring has been lifted, but not on the permits yet. And so we are in the process of hiring seasonals back, as well as hiring some new ones. And one that closes today, actually, for local hire park ranger. What we're going to try to do is, I know the Forest Service this year is limited what they can put for folks in the confluence area. And they've always carried the lion's share of the water there. So this year, I'm trying to hire 2 extra seasonals to dip into our savings account, so to speak, our ADA direct account. You know, that happens. So we're going to hire a couple more seasonals than we normally would. And that helps with our displacement of our current situation too, to help us through this season. Also, a couple of folks that work in permitting up front that resigned. So we will be adjusting some of our permitting hours when we can't issue those, just so folks don't drive all the way here out of town and find out that there's just one person, that person's on a phone call, they're tied up in the meeting, what happens. So we're gonna try to, you know, give times that we can do it, maybe start taking some more reservations, help people give people the service that they need in the time we got down to. So that's pretty much it for us. So
Full of questions tonight. So I can reach out to the membership and just let them know that refuge permitting is limited, and so to try and reach out and reserve a time.
Sure.
Contact the office before you, if that'll be helpful.
An email probably tomorrow and Ben's back, and send it to you first. As well, if you have it. You have a way of saying this might get wrong. This might be different. Something else to you.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then I did get a couple of people calling me saying that they felt like there was a change. It's not really in our charisma, but it's the refuge non-competitive use permit for drift boats. If they plan to have a kicker, are you requiring a Coast Guard license for non-navigable waters?
If you're running a motor and there was an accident occurred, how would they explain why you didn't have a license?
Because under 10 horse and non-navigable water, they don't have to have one.
Do you think an attorney will agree with that?
I'm not sure.
They won't.
Right.
So what we're telling folks is what I'm urging the new refuge manager to do is they've got a permit to add it to it.
Okay.
Because we don't want, as a co-insurer, if someone gets injured and the question comes up, why do you not have a captain's license? Well, it's a non-navigable waterway. And why are you running a boat?
Right.
So that's the issue it gets into. I've been asking the court engineers to look at that ruling, and we're quite frankly a little confused as to why it wasn't listed as navigable drinking.
Right.
So that's what needs to be closed out.
Which is fine. I just needed to.
Currently, yeah, there's nothing in place that says that.
Right.
You know, when we issue that permit, there's no box that we're checking to state that this person It needs to like has a captain's license on this.
Right.
They don't have a captain's license if they're on sale.
Okay.
I would advise them.
I,
Like an attorney,
I agree with you.
which is never fun, to think like an attorney and would they.
Right. I just know that there's some rebels over there.
What do you call it?
That's why they go there.
I know, I'm well aware.
All right, thank you.
What's the completion date for that new boardwalk crossing?
Well before the open.
Really?
Which one? Great. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Nothing else for Matt. We'll move on to the U.S. Forest Service evening route.
Good evening. I'll start off with some staffing updates. So we still only have Alex McLean as our Russian River Interagency Coordinator, and we are expecting one SCA intern to help him out this summer because we are still in a hiring freeze otherwise and unable to bring anyone else on. Tim Lorenzini is leaving the Forest Service and Federal Service, so he'll be leaving us here as of tomorrow. So we wish him well on his new endeavors. And we're also getting quite a few new requests for mining plans of operation. So I'm glad you brought that up, Hans, because we are getting a few folks that want to get out there and start mining. So we're trying to evaluate some of those plans as they come in. And we've also just received some new direction from the Secretary of Agriculture concerning increase in logging and increase in timber production. And so the agency is currently working towards putting together a plan as to how we're going to do that. They want to see a 5-year plan put together, and they're looking at potentially having that put together in the next 2 years and how we can increase productivity and work across boundaries with state and borough and other landowners as well. So more to come on that as this plan unfolds here in the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alex for other updates.
Okay, so Quartz Creek Campground and Trail River Campground Eagle Loop are open, no fees, no services currently. And for Russian River Road, they started work last week and they started doing some dirt work and they're pouring the concrete fascia soldier pile. And so they're starting to work on that concrete work on that wall. And they got delayed with the dirt work because of the snow. They're playing it by ear as they can do it. So they're making progress, trying to keep going there. So that's my update. Any questions?
See any questions in the room here, Alex, or online?
Nope, I got nothing.
Monty's sitting this way.
I'm disappointed. I just want to put that on record.
Sorry.
All right. Well, thanks, Ruth. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
No, nothing further for the Forest Service. We'll move on to the City of Kenai. Evening, Tyler.
No, again, just a reminder, flood stabilization, mid-May, you'll start seeing rock show up down there in the mouth of the river. And then our city dock is now open. The bathrooms are not. They will not be open until May. Things get a little warmer, but if you want to launch your boat, that is now available in the city. Yeah.
So thanks, Tyler. Some questions here, questions online. Move on to the rest of this event. Anything gold?
Yeah, not a ton going on right now. Still in the middle of hiring for the campgrounds. We typically open up mid-May, continue on Swiftwater. We'll probably stick to that just because of staffing and our campground hosts, but it could be early May. We'll see what happens. Outflow project, like Hans talked about, it's about probably a 2 or 3 hour process. They'll mow up for a couple of days, go out there, take this screen out. Sounds like it was an extra step that wasn't really needed to begin with. And so we're just going to remove whatever this screen material is and back out of there and wrap it up. So it'd be a quick fix. Wish we had known about it last year, and we wouldn't have had to gone back in. But that's how these projects work. Not super fish related or river related, but the field house project, that's that 40,000 square foot recreation facility. Grand opening is August 16th. Already been contacted by TU to do some casting clinics in there in the wintertime for some off-season practice. So it's going to be essentially about 200 feet by 100 feet is the sort of the playing surface. So there'll be a lot of space to do some cool things in there. So August 16th, grand opening. That's all I really have.
Thanks, Joel. Any questions for Ms. Latna? Joel?
Question, I don't know if you guys would be interested in having an ASK program, National Entry into School program. Instructors started for that, but I'm sure you're trying to pencil up.
Yep.
If you guys want to do it, I'll do it for a charge. Certain bias to get volunteers, after school work programs.
Yep.
It's actually pretty cheap program. It's not before it. We have a course like the years.
Yep.
So talking about it's very safe. Well, yeah,
Yep.
Good. All right. Anything else? All right, well, I'll go with Canvas Borough, keeping with Ryan.
Good evening, Hans. Good evening, everyone. Not a whole lot going on with the borough right now in terms of impact to the river or projects to talk about. It's, sort of the start of our budget cycle. And so we're starting in on, having all the budget meetings about all the different service areas and trying to sort of put the budget together. A major component of that, as you guys know, I'm sure, just following the news, is, school funding. And so the school district has to get us their budget, and then we have a certain amount of time to approve theirs. And so that's sort of what we're right kind of in the middle of right now, budget process planning. I did notice that on the next agenda, so our next meeting is going to be in Seward next Tuesday at 6 o'clock at the Seward Library. And one of the things that's on the agenda is for the awarding the contract for the roof repair at the River Center. So that'll be getting done. I think that was like $165,000. So I did notice that. That was one thing that I wanted to bring up. Another thing that, we're kind of looking at, and again, it's maybe not charisma related, but it's just something to think about. It's just different ways to try to manage property tax assessments. Seeing property tax assessments go up, and it really could change in an area's valuation. All of a sudden, property taxes go way up, and people are, essentially feeling like they can't afford to live in their own homestead or something like that because of the property taxes. So we're kind of looking at what things we could do. Of course, there's leverage you can pull, whether one might be, reduce mill rates or something to that effect. And so, maybe asking the legislature if they would entertain putting some type of cap in or something like that to limit the increase year over year. Lots of considerations with that, of course. So something we're looking at doing is maybe asking the legislature to take a look at that. So other thing that we're kind of on our radar working on, but other than that, not a whole lot prison board related, anything to report, but happy to take any questions. So,
yeah. Questions for Brian? Go ahead. Seeing it here, Dave, that wraps up our agency and government reports. Dave, I can turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We'll jump down into committee reports. The Guide Advisory Committee has not met since the last board meeting. I did send off, I think I sent a copy of this letter to everybody, all the board members here, but I sent off a letter to the commissioner's office on something we voted on the last time, the letter related to stipulation 32 and the commercial use permits. So I guess I'll ask the question now, maybe to you, Hans, since you're with Parks. Have you heard anything, any sort of response from DPOR, from the commissioner, state parks?
Dave, I inquired on Tuesday of this week, and we have not. So, no news.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, that's good to know. Just I'm sure you will, but keep me apprised if you hear anything noteworthy about that. I guess our advice to the Guide Association River Guides would be to continue to just hold tight. Um, any other comments from board members related to that topic? All right, hearing none. Oh, Bonnie.
Well, yeah, we're gonna talk about that at this point. I have heard from other officials that the letter did get there and there's discussions going on. I've not got any word on decisions, but I was hoping to get that before this meeting, but they're they're busy with a lot of stuff up there or down in Juneau, so that I am advising members that if they want to get their permit to go ahead and do that, but I'm not sure. I'm not getting mine. I'm not going to sign that revocable at will until we get a final decision. But there's people that are missing trips now because they don't have their permit. So I'm like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. It's not like you didn't sign it last year. So that's where we're at.
Right.
If I can, with the comments, I can work with you here in the coming weeks. Use our communication strategy from your end, try to go a little bit of new water here to be able to what that looks like. Things are, there's rules of the road for our communication with the commissioner's office. So I need to stay in my lane. At least for something that's going to put us on the internet. But I'll chat with you. So we can all better understand how inquiries can be made on those steps.
Yeah, I understand that. Thanks, Hans. All right, if there's no other comments there, we'll jump down to habitat and river use. That committee also did not meet, but I'll give you an opportunity here if you want Shannon to weigh in with anything.
Sure. I don't have anything on the agenda right now, but I have been talking with Hans Rinke about these special use permits. And so moving forward, I believe we have a game plan to review those in the habitat and river use committees moving forward.
Perfect. Thanks, Shannon. Any questions for Shannon? Okay, jumping down towards what I've listed under old business. I do have a couple updates here. At our last meeting, we discussed our proposal for proposed removal action for a couple members with unexcused absences. I made contact with Oz shortly after our last meeting in March. He's been out of state for much of this winter, attending to some personal family matters. He let me know that he does still very much want to be a part of the Charisma board. But unfortunately, some personal things are taking him away from the state and from his ability to do that at this time. So he said he wouldn't be here for this meeting or in May, but possibly by the fall when we start to meet again in October, that he'd be back in state. So that's the update from Oz, and I guess we can discuss that now if there's anyone who has other comments on how we'd want to move forward with him. But I suppose my recommendation would be to excuse him from the next meeting in May and kind of revisit whether or not he's able to participate next year once we meet again in October.
Yeah, so Dave, I'll just comment on that. Yeah, I totally support that. If somebody has something come up, I would just encourage members that have something come out to, if you know you're gonna be gone for a while, to reach out and let people know, but I understand that Oz has been dealing with an alien family member, and so I totally support that. I understand.
And perhaps Dave, if I may, as a non-voting member, something I can do a better job of is, articulating that you can join these meetings with a phone call. You don't have to have the app. So I can work to it. So we can work as a group, or you and I can, Dave, two members that are out of touch. A little bit, you have a couple different options to join. Not complicated.
Right. Yeah, I think Oz may appreciate that, just the gesture of extending a call-in link or, anything to help him participate if he's able to. Ted, did I see your hand up? Or Bill? Who was that?
That's me, Bill. Okay. This is kind of for Hans, I think. What, do we have a date set or rough time set for interviewing board candidates?
We'll leave that up to Dave. Discuss that at some point.
All right.
Thanks.
Let's get it before we get out of here tonight, though.
Just move it
Right?
along. Yeah.
No, you and I will make sure that we get that in before we get out of here.
We go beat up Dave.
I know. Good luck, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the update then on the other member we haven't seen at all so far this 24-25 board cycle, Wayne Wilson. I reached out to him several times, starting with the day after our last meeting. I sent him an email and also called the Kenai Indian Tribe office and left a message for him. And I didn't get a response, and I followed up with another email in late March on the 28th, and then gave him a call and spoke with someone else in the office a little earlier this month on the 2nd. So I was able to leave a message with somebody and kind of tell that person what the nature of the call was, and I still haven't heard anything back. And so that's the information I have to share about Wayne.
Make a motion to remove based on failure to adhere to the attendance policy.
Okay, second.
All right, there's a second for removal of Wayne Wilson based on his unexcused absences and the policy and the bylaws. We did vote to add this to the agenda at last month's meeting per the bylaws, and we do have more than 8 people here tonight to vote on it. So as far as I can see, all of this falls within the rules that we have here to work with. And since that motion has been made and seconded, I'll call a question. Is there anyone who does not agree with this removal?
Is there maybe discussion here on the motion before we vote?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. My apologies.
Okay, thanks. So I guess, what is this? Oh, right, yeah. No, I'm okay with that. So I'm more questioning on the appointment process. Like, so if we end up with somebody else, what's the next step in terms of like adding people to the charisma board? Is it the board? Is it the commissioner? How does that work? Somebody just maybe quickly.
Director makes recommendation, commissioner.
So is he representing the Kenai tribe though? Wayne Wilson is representing the Kenai tribe, is he?
No, we just
No,
put
so
an
we don't have a
application.
representative of the tribe. That would be,
So is this like a public seat then, or?
Yeah, all the seats are public, with the exception of the agency seats. They're all public seats.
Yeah, so Wayne occupies a public seat on the board. There is not a designated seat for the Kenai Indian Tribe. That's not how it was set up. But yeah, like Hans said, we would go through the applications for the open seats or any that are seats that are rolling or about to expire. Hold interviews as necessary, and then, like you said, make a recommendation to Ricky, who would then recommend to the commissioner, who would then make the formal appointment. Monty.
All right, so just to add to that, there is precedent that the application deadline has been adhered to tightly. Being that we have a new opening, we knew that we had, how many openings did we know we had? Three with two that reapplied, one that expressed no interest in reapplying or not going to reapply at this time. But we just added another. I don't see that that's a material change. But I would say that if we want to extend that April 15th application deadline to let people know that there's another one available, I think that we should do that at this meeting. Or just live with the consequences. And if we don't get two applicants, then we don't fill that one seat for a year.
So, and to touch on that a little bit, which, yeah, if that's what the board wants to do, we can extend that deadline in order to get some more people in. But I'll kind of scan through here to read. Yeah, if a vacancy, any interested members of the public may be placed on an application list by submitting formal applications to the board. So, in the event that a vacancy occurs before the expiration of a member's term, we can essentially pull from an application list to forward to the commissioner. So that my understanding is that kind of thing can happen outside of the application period. So that is to say, we could accept applications to put on a list on sort of a rolling basis. Yeah, so maybe that's a sort of an avenue that could be used without editing the current deadline. But like I said, I'm kind of open to whatever we all want to, however we all want to do this.
And I understand that you see that in the bylaws. I'm just telling you that I submitted an application when I was sitting on the board 2 days after the application deadline, and they decided that I could not be on the board for a year at that point. So I would just caution the responsiveness of state parks and DNR to follow through with your wishes, because that was not what happened last time.
Yep. Yep. Noted.
I just have a couple other questions too. Do we know who appointed Wayne and how long he's been on the board?
He applied.
So he applied through the regular process, and that was 5 years ago, 2 years ago.
It was 2 years. It was a 3-year term.
Years ago. Yeah, I guess, where I'm at with it is that I probably would not support the motion. I think it just sends sort of a public message that you're removing this person who's a, prominent person in the community and member of the United Indian Tribe. It seems like, that said, I appreciate the work that Dave has done in reaching out. It sounds like that's maybe not produced any fruit, but for me personally, I would just feel like diplomacy is still probably alive, and figure out a way to make this happen with him either resigning or just saying, yeah, I'm not getting, rather than it being an action of the Charisma board. That's just my personal feeling on the matter, but I understand the frustration others have as well, dedicating time to being here and other people not showing up. So certainly wouldn't hold it against anybody on how they vote, but the questions I asked, just simply wanting to know, if he was appointed by the commissioner. I would certainly hope that the first move would be to go to the commissioner and ask, for him to reach out or something like that. But sounds like he was just kind of through the application process. But anyways, that's kind of my logic, I guess, on the subject. So that's probably where I'll land. But
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for that, Joel. Go ahead.
I had another question too. When was Wayne notified? Did he has it been 20 days since he was notified?
Yeah, so the first attempt was on March 14th. Let me look back at my notes. March 14th, I sent him an email that afternoon, and also I called his office, the phone number that I had for him. Someone put me through to his voicemail, and I left a message. So that was the first contact, and then I waited about 2 weeks, emailed and then called again earlier this month.
If I may add, historically, I believe the board was very excited about him coming on to this committee, given who he is and who he represents. And then nothing.
Did he come previously? Did he come the previous year? So this is his second year. Did he come the first year?
He did what, 1 or 2 meetings? Do you remember?
Don't remember. I don't think he came.
1 meeting in person, 2 virtual.
Seems like
Yeah.
it seems like a suggestion, and I don't see anything wrong with sending a letter saying that because of your inability to attend or willingness to attend, some clever way to say it, we're set to remove you from the board unless we hear from you by the next meeting.
Dave, isn't that what your letter said to him?
Yeah, yep. And I can pull up that email and kind of read off from it. But yeah, that was essentially the nature of it was, one that we're excited to have him on the board and bring that perspective to the table. I think that's an important thing. And that, yeah, we haven't seen him this winter, and there is a policy through the bylaws by which, you may be removed if you don't attend. And so if you do want to be a part of this process, please let me know if there's been something that's been preventing you from attending the meetings in person or remotely. Please let me know so we can work through this. If you still want to be on the board, yeah, just respond, email me back or give me a phone call, and let's talk it through. Yeah, I'm also not opposed to, like Ted said, putting something together a little more formal or trying his office one more time. I think that, yeah, whether it's Wayne or, we can't substitute somebody else in his stead, someone else like from the Kenai, for example, if we wanted to have them be represented here, would have to apply. Um, so that's not technically the avenue we could take, but yeah, I would support. We're almost at the end of this cycle, right? So, someone else is coming in here. Willing to give another shot, essentially.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there's a benefit to having an email is great, but a regular letter that goes out with the letterhead of the thing saying, we haven't heard from you. We're reluctantly going to have to remove you unless we hear from you by such and such.
Yeah, I like the formalization of that letter explicitly stating like, hey, at the next meeting on May 15th, this will be an item. So you can attend, or you can offer your resignation. But like a real explicit letter kind of states that out for him.
So I have to disagree. I brought this up last meeting. We had the same discussion last meeting. We took steps to inform this individual. If you guys wanted a written letter, we probably should have talked about it last meeting, but we have an application period that ends in 4 days. And we will sit with an empty seat for a year. That makes all our participation subject to, I've come to several meetings where we did not get a quorum, we could not do business. And those of us who show up and volunteer our time really deserve those people to honor that. If you sign your application and send it in, you need to show up. And if you don't show up, you need to be gone. Somebody else needs to be here.
Is there a cap on the amount of advisory board members?
Yeah,
There is.
Yeah. And so there's only 2 seats and like I said before, there were 2 open seats on the board when I applied and they did not accept my application. I sat out for a year. The board and it was a detriment to the board. They canceled several meetings due to lack of quorum because they were board members short, but that was the way they wanted to play, and that's fine.
They being the president and the.
No, it ended up being the director and the commissioner that ended up making that decision.
Well, no, yeah, so just for the discussion on the floor, I think I echo Brian's sentiment. He brought up the borough's perspective, and then through that letter, I think we loosely meet our bylaws in 20 days, but I don't feel like that was explicitly stated. It doesn't follow the bylaw, so I wouldn't be in support of that motion.
And Joel, which portion is that, the 20-day notice specifically is what you're referring to?
So Monty, is the concern wanting to get somebody else in there? Like he's out and so you have time to get somebody else in there?
Yeah,
because I feel like the letter essentially is going to do the same thing, right? It's doing the same thing. It's just going to take a month longer. So
Right.
what in the process of bringing other people on could we do that can still meet that objective of bringing other people on?
Well, the application period ends in 4 days. And if they don't meet that application period, they're not going to be considered for this year or next fall.
Well, we could extend the application period, as you said, right?
Yeah, if you want to do that too, but then the other thing that we have to do after we get the application period done is we have to have a committee, an interview committee that interviews and makes recommendations, rank the applicants to send to the commissioner. So when we make that in May, now we're all of a sudden, we're meeting after the end of the year for making recommendations. And then the commissioner's office can be very slow at appointments. What was it, first 2 meetings this fall were canceled because of no appointments and not quorums, so they are mandated to make the law says that they shall make it within 30 days. I've never seen it happen.
Yeah, okay, so I think where I'm at is, there's the question, if you get voted on, that's certainly, in the purview of the board. I just personally, if it was me and I was representing, myself or a public seat, I'd have no problem voting on it. It's representing the borough seat. I feel like I need to be a little bit apolitical in that it's all the other boroughs, and I'm not sure how everybody would feel about this. And so it just seems like something that I'm reluctant to want to vote on, removing somebody for that reason. But I understand where the board's at as well. And so it's, if you want to just call the question and see where it lands, that's one way to do it. If it doesn't work, then you could go the letter route or something. But
Do you know him personally?
I do, yeah. I don't know him well. I know him though. Like my kids play basketball with his kids. And
I mean, is it something you would or would like to do, to talk to him?
I'm happy to reach out to him. Absolutely, yeah. I don't know if I have his number or something, but I'm sure it's on the list and I can get it. So yeah, I'm happy to do that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Any other discussion? I'll call the question.
I would just say the last point of discussion. Yeah, Joel, I appreciate that sentiment. Monty, I appreciate what you're saying as well. I know, yeah, you kind of got the short end of the stick and you're trying to reapply because nobody gave you the application even when you asked for it over and over. I think that's kind of an administrative oversight one-off. I know you don't necessarily, you may not see it that way, but I'd like to think that I could help us work around that if that was the case and we were to nominate somebody sort of out of session or out of the application open period, so to speak. So yeah, I think, and I can, as a kind of point of clarification, I can read a little bit of the text from the email that I sent to Wayne. So this one was from March 14th. I quoted the bylaws. about meeting attendance or missing meetings, and that the board may vote for removal of an unexcused absence. And that we had an agenda item for our April meeting to vote on unexcused absences, and that again, that I valued his any participation he could offer in our meetings, and I would hope to see him here tonight, and that to please let me know if he intends to participate, and that I would give you all the updates, give him my phone number. So that was kind of the nature of the notice that I gave. But yeah, so like you said, if there's no other discussion, we can take it to a vote.
And we've also been follow up phone calls. There you go.
Yes, and talk to
I'm
their
actually
office.
here.
Oh,
Who's
there he
on?
is.
Is this Wayne?
Yeah, I've been listening to you guys. I was waiting for the talk, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Welcome to the meeting.
Well, I apologize. I've been sick. Been sick all for a good portion of the winter, but I've been feeling better. But I don't look at the emails. That was the problem. I didn't realize that the emails were so crucial. So I apologize for that. But so anyways, I just been working on my own health and been, like I said, I don't know who was talking about the basketball thing, but yeah, my son plays basketball, so. But I don't check my emails, so maybe that was my problem. I probably should have said it, and I just happened to be clear in my emails. Like a couple days ago, I noticed this email, and I was like, oops, I better call in because I haven't been in a meeting for a while, I guess.
Gotcha. So wwilson@kenaic.org is a good email address for you.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Right, so if Wayne, is it your intent that you will become active and still participate?
Yeah, I can. I apologize. And are you guys only doing emails? Is there a way you can text me text me a message? Because that's either the best way. But I mean, I could do the email, but I sit on a lot of boards, and that's probably my fault. So.
That's okay. I can definitely text you some information, or I can text you to let you know to check your email for things like the agenda, just to give you a heads up.
Yeah, that will work.
In light of the new information, I'll withdraw my motion to remove your second.
I removed my second to your motion that you're withdrawing.
Perfect. All right, done.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us here, Wayne.
Yeah, I apologize for not being better at communicating.
That's okay. We're glad you're here now.
Contacted him. I got his number.
Let's see here. I can't see your whole phone number there, Wayne. Do you mind reading it off to me now, or I can collect it from you later? Either way.
It's 907-398-7839.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I guess we'll jump ahead here. Let's see, Mr. Conover, you mentioned something at the beginning of the meeting. I'm gonna scroll back through my notes about State Park's capital improvement projects.
Yes, when the director was here, he mentioned the timeline that getting any capital projects that we would like to see to, I guess, to Hans to forward up to his office for the next legislative session before we are done for the summer. So I thought I'd bring that up. And the one project we talked about was the bathroom facilities on the middle stretch of the river. And I didn't know, it being new, what the process the board had to make those kind of recommendations to parks, put that project on the capital list. So I didn't know if there were any other projects that may have been discussed before my coming on the board that we might want to redress and add to the list to submit to the director.
May I respectfully suggest way you might do this is to solicit, Dave, we might solicit some ad hoc committee to get together and talk about it. Greater recommendation.
Is that would fall under, habitat reviews?
Yes.
This, well, maybe we're gonna take the same thing. It's been on our agenda for years. Right, so if we can just try and push it forward and make an actual recommendation, yeah, before the summer to actually try and get it in the list.
I can also circulate our current bird maintenance, our current list of capital projects, which can obviously review as a break or would inform the break or we can gather off. You know, there's something that wants to put together about what is capital wish list.
I was gonna bring that up. A lot of times we've ranked what was in the queue already, and I'm totally in support of adding that one that we talked about. Especially with the LNG pipeline, maybe new revenues coming our way, some point, it's better to get it in now than after the rush, but yeah, ranking what we got on there has generally been more helpful.
I know, like this. Oh. Okay. Guarantees. That's the shit. Next year's a new year.
The wish list.
So I guess my question to Shannon is like to sit down and put this together to have something prepared for the next board meeting?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, so we have, so this is the capital list. Can you hear me? You there?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm suggesting that we put together a capital list, but it should come through the Habitat and River Use Subcommittee. So you being the chair, just like to take this on before our next board meeting.
Well, I'm here in Juneau right now and the budget's being heard and read. We may be a little bit late to the party for this year.
Well, I understand that, but he wanted us to put together a capital list for next fiscal year to have in by before we adjourn for the summer.
Yes, so let's add that and host a meeting in May before the May 15th board meeting.
Correct. Yes.
Good plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I'm supportive of that.
Okay. Which, if you haven't, shoot me an email with the date and time. For everybody on the committee. I don't ever know when we're going to meet because it's not always shown. So I've missed a couple of the meetings.
Yep. Thanks. We'll make sure if we decide on a meeting time and location, we'll let folks know before the May meeting. And yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And I think even in May or through the early part of the next board cycle, we can continue to discuss and refine that list if there's anything that needs to be added. Any other discussion on that topic?
Yes, one thing that would help the committee is if we received a copy of the deferred maintenance for Charisma.
Problem.
Yep. Perfect. Thanks, Shannon. Anything else? Okay. moving along here, what I listed under correspondence, I had sent out the letter that I wrote based on one of the um, motions we voted on in the last meeting about sending a letter to the DPOR or to the commissioner, just kind of related to their participation, our participation as a board, the kind of things that we want to do and hear about moving forward. Hope y'all got that email copy. I did get a couple of people that responded, including a little grammatical error in there that I fixed. Is there any other discussion on that? Additions, things I should remove?
Dave, this is Ryan. I guess maybe I was just a little unclear. The letter has already been sent, correct?
No.
That letter has not. The one about stipulation 32 has been sent. The most recent one has not. About the let's see, what was it titled?
Yeah, I'm looking at the one you have right now with just the draft letter to the commissioner.
Mhm.
But there was another one that was sent, and I guess maybe I didn't see that one. But that was just about the STIP 32, which was the STIP revocability.
Right. So that one, resolution on CUP stipulation number 32, that one was sent. And then the other one, draft letter to DPOR, I titled it, relevancy and participation in board process, working title. So I'll take any feedback on that as well. But that one, relevancy and participation in board process, has not yet been sent. I was waiting to discuss it at this meeting and confirm that people all were supportive or agreed on it.
I guess I would look for other board comments, but I, I felt that it was, pretty politically correct. I'm not sure if it'll hit with as much intent as I'd like it to, but I'm not gonna offer any amendments to stiffen it at this time unless the rest of the board doesn't feel like it will actually make any difference. That'd be the question that I would ask is what your opinion on that was. And another thing, when we're doing correspondence things, if we could get copies of those, hard copies to talk about when so that we're not all trying to dig them up our phone or recall from memory, that would be helpful in the future, but it is what it is.
I would maybe just maybe, I don't know if it's an amendment, it's just sort of a friendly suggestion that it has it CCing, the governor and Representative Ruffridge of Europe, and I'm just curious, if it's gonna be, the representatives, I would include Bill Elam, and I would include Sarah Vance, the peninsula delegation for, I'm not sure if there was a reason for it to just be Justin and Jesse, but
Main reason I think was that they set in on some of the meetings. But I think that's a good amendment.
Yeah, yep, noted.
Just thinking about Jack. No, I think send it. Let's get it over.
In the past, when we've done these kind of letters, system seems to work pretty well at circulating, let individuals make their comments and let the president decide which to include. And most of the time I found when I was president, I included most all the comments came in, good comments from people. So I would be willing to let Dave incorporate those comments that he considers appropriate. Otherwise, we'll be spending too much time worrying about it and it's not worth it. So let's let him do that. You have a good suggestion there. I like the letter. Monty, I was probably a little more politically correct, a little less pointed than I would have made it, but that's okay. I think it's good. Here is the information. And we can build on that later on. So,
Hopefully we don't have to. Okay.
yeah.
So what do you need from us, Dave? Do you need us to make a motion to approve and send it?
Yep, I think that'd be
All
the
right,
next
a
step.
motion to approve and send it. Second. Yeah.
All right. If there's no further discussion, then we'll call the question. Shannon, what do you got?
Actually did have some further discussion on it. I would say that recently I had a positive interaction with Alaska State Parks, and that was regarding the habitat signs that we worked on. A couple months ago, State Parks came to the board and asked for our input on the habitat closure signs. We did run that through the River Use and Habitat Committee and came up with a recommendation. And then we brought that forward to the board and we voted on it. And now we're seeing the implementation of that sign. We've got the order in and they'll be placing those signs up prior to the fishing season. So I did want to acknowledge that we did have a positive interaction with state parks, and at times the process with them coming to our advisory board has worked really well.
So Shannon, are you like recommending that maybe there's like that message in the letter as well?
I'm operating off of my phone right now, and I wish that I could pull that letter up and just kind of peruse it. I didn't feel like it was too um, offensive, but I did want some kind of acknowledgement that they do make effort to consult us as an advisory committee.
I think that's a very valid point, Shannon. I think it's a good thing that maybe Dave include a paragraph about an example of where the process works properly, not only where it didn't work properly. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Shannon?
Correct. If the letter isn't containing some example of how we have worked together and how they've come to us and sought out our recommendation, then I think that needs to be included.
I would support that amendment.
Okay.
Shannon?
Yeah, I like it.
Yes, sir.
This is Bill. When you get back, you and I get together, please. I'm not
Yes.
asking for a deal. I mean,
It sounded like it.
okay, on the times. We got a check ready for him and not sure where it should go.
Yeah. Yeah. When I get back from my favorite place in the world, Juneau, I will call you and we will get together.
Thanks, Shannon.
I just one last thing here, and I like Ted's idea of, approving the letter with delegation to Dave. I think that handles a lot of sort of small clerical edits and things without having to do a whole bunch of amendments. So I like that idea. In the last paragraph, there was just one sentence that maybe I'm not getting it. But it says, as current board, this is probably the third sentence in, as current board members of the board, we have to state and what required the president carry out these supportive responsibilities to ensure the goals of the management plan, et cetera. Is it the president that we mentioned there, or is it the commissioner? What was the intent, I guess, of that? Because to me, as it reads, I'm kind of wondering who the president is. President of this board? Is it, we can call the president of this board the president? What was the intent with that word?
Yeah, the intent with that word would be the president of the board or the chairman of the board. So I can, yeah, I like kind of clarifying that. And the intention there was kind of to like extend the olive branch, so to speak, to say that the state, but also, as this has all been written up and planned for, that the chairman or the board, like we have a responsibility to participate in that too. And this is something that Hans and I have talked about, like trying to create a way now that we're in the 21st century where we can record a place with these letters like this and agendas and things that we've talked about in one place where if I'm not here next year or Hans moves to a different position and is gone, something can be handed along. So yeah, I'm willing to bear, or whoever the chairman is should bear some of that responsibility to keep that continuity going. So that's sort of what I was referring to there, but yeah, it'd be good to kind of for me, yeah, I can clarify the president and replace it with president of the Charisma Board or chairman of the Charisma Board.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, I think
And
that
then,
was an important part of the letter, though, that it did speak to continuity, because a lot of the things that have happened on this board have slipped in through the cracks and never to be heard again and have to be redone.
and then, yeah, I can add a paragraph for Shannon's request, um, providing an example of how the process worked properly to highlight that as an example and to iterate, what would be a recent positive interaction with state parks as well.
Yeah, revise my motion to approve the message as amended by Dave. Um, and call the question.
Do we need a second for that now?
You got a second?
Okay, so is there anybody who disagrees with that motion?
Hearing no objections.
Okay, hearing none, that motion will carry. I'll make those edits, that additional paragraph, clarifying what president means in the last paragraph, and then also take a look at closer look at who all would be copied on this letter as well. And then I'll make those edits and try to send it out early next week. Once I do that, I'll forward that letter along to everybody here tonight or all the board members so that everybody has a copy of what was sent. Okay, so if that wraps up our correspondence section of the agenda, we can jump down to public comment again. Do we have any new members of the public there in the room tonight?
There's one sitting back here, but he's not raising his hand.
Shout out to the city of Kenai, getting to talk in early. I want a few people to call and bug them. They're here.
So the bathroom will be open till May.
That's fine. Yeah, there's not usually many people there. It's great spot to build.
Go before you go, right?
Not seen anything else today.
Okay, perfect. All right, board member comments. You guys can go around the room first, maybe.
Start the same as we did the introductions or roll call. No comment from the Kenai.
I'll keep it real brief too. I had a few brief comments there at the start. You guys heard sort of the updates about what's going on with the borough. Just stated again, as I did in the first meeting, my cell phone number is 398-1233. If anybody wants to chat about anything, get a hold of me and I'll text you back. No, but seriously, I'll do my best to get back to you. Happy to chat with anybody about anything. Appreciate being on this board and learning from each of you guys. So that's all. Thanks.
Yeah, nothing from Savannah. This is Matt Connor again with the refuse, just let folks know I was a lot of you in these rooms for many, many years, in resigning to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I submitted my resignation yesterday, my last day of the week. So, pleasure and, thank you all.
Dave, I appreciate the work that you do on writing the letters and keeping things on track. It's well done. Thanks.
I
Hey,
echo
thanks.
that support from Dave, but I also want to take this opportunity. I read Ted Wellman's farewell email. And I just want to make a suggestion that we maybe have some sort of party giveaway celebration for Ted at the May meeting. We've done that before in the past for departing members. And so I'll bring hot dogs or something. But thank you. You gotta show up. That makes you want to show up to your live meeting.
He said,
I had no comment.
Have comment either. Hey, moving, you have anything to add? I know it's the day of the last session.
Sorry, I have trouble hearing sometimes, so I don't know if you said my name, but I'll go ahead and speak. This is Shannon. I just want to say thank you to everybody for your time and your dedication to this board. I can tell that everybody is passionate about this resource, and that's appreciated. So thank you for coming tonight.
And Wayne, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll chime in
No.
here. Go ahead, Wayne.
Oh, I was said, I'm sorry for not attending. I will make sure, especially with the heads up, I will be attending every meeting. Sorry about that.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Wayne. I'll be sure to shoot you a text so you can know to check your email and find any of the correspondence or agendas and links to attend remotely. We'll keep you in the loop. Yeah, and I would just echo what Shannon said. I can tell people want to be here and weigh in on the process and what the process is all about. So I appreciate everyone's time.
So one more question. Have we received any applications? Because I did have a couple people that told me they applied and made sure that we wanted to make sure that they got in. So you've received other applications than the reapplying board members?
I have not.
Dave, have you heard anybody, had anybody contact you or?
I have not had anybody contact me asking if their application was received.
All right. Yeah, I will reach out to those guys and make sure that they reach it out again. That's interesting. That's one of the problems with our application process is there's no longer a Pam at the River Center, so I'm not sure where they don't send them to the care of the, when I was in a PO box.
when I applied, there was a link on the website that you could click on and open it up. It's not there anymore.
As far as, the application.
Yeah, the application of the board, it was there, there was a link for it, but I haven't seen a link for it anymore.
Okay. I got
Yeah.
that. Want to take some of it?
No, they can't figure it out. I don't want them on here.
No one wants to damage River Center back.
That's
Yeah, natural selection, right? I was just curious. Sorry, Dave, I quit.
Say again.
I'm done interjecting. You can finish up your good of the order.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I think I'm done with my comment too. If anyone else here online, who do we have? If there's anything from Ruth or Alex or Wendy?
No comment from Ruth.
All right. Well, yeah, I set the next meeting date for not the first Thursday, or sorry, second Thursday, but the a little bit later. It fits my availability a bit better that month. So if that's good with everyone else, we'll do Thursday, May 15th. For now, we'll keep it at 5:30. Location yet to be determined, and Hans and I will figure that out and let everybody know. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn. Second.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. Meeting's adjourned. Have a good night.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
You had your knee surgery. Yeah. I didn't. I did. Basketball. I thought you were gonna get out of it.